Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital Exclusive Analysis. In today's video, we're going to be discussing some of the insider buying and selling that we have been seeing and more or less the important ones that we want to take note of. So first things first, Google. We're going to discuss Google because Google has seen some insider selling here in the last couple days. You've had the director and a major shareholder selling and just taking some small profits. Now the director sell side pressure kind of leaves me a little bit it's a little bit of an interesting insider sell because they sold about 75,000 shares totaling 9 million, and they only have 32,240 shares left. Now, this smaller sell wasn't anything too crazy. I mean, they still have over 10.7 million, so that's a drastic difference. But the fact that the director, an insider in the company, has sold the majority of their shares, now we don't know what options they have left to exercise. So in the grand scheme of things, they could still have a lot of options and warrants to exercise. But needless to say, 75,000 shares selling into this market strength is something we need to pay attention to. Now, Google's not really the interesting one that I want to bring to your attention. You did have some selling in Team Atlassian. Nothing too crazy, 8,600 shares, 252,000 total left. The real interesting one that I'm observing, if we scroll down the chart here, I'm just going to bring your attention to, let me just find it on here. I know the home builders like DHI, so DR Horton. That's an interesting sell, 40,000 shares. So the COO is selling half of their shares, basically just a little under half of their shares. Now, one little insider sell from DR Horton is not that crazy, but then when you combine it with what else I'm seeing in the overall industry here, I'm also seeing a sell in KB Homes. So basically the home builders and DHI Horton have been some of the strongest stocks in the market. DR Horton is basically making new highs over here, breaking out, trying to break out at least on the weekly chart is here. It'll be telling to see what type of close we get tomorrow on the weekly chart. And then you look at KB Homes, also in the same home builder, sorry, that's the wrong one. KBH is the ticker. If you look at KB Homes, also one of the strongest stocks in the market right now, also trying to break out, but you can clearly see you are at some near-term resistance right now, and it's just very interesting to see insider selling occurring within two different home builder companies, so KB Homes and DR Horton, DH Horton. So let's pay attention to the home builders, because if insiders are taking profits, that's certainly something to pay attention to. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, 150,000 shares for the total of 1.4 million is really nothing, but 6.78 million, that's a nice chunk of change in the CEO's pocket right there. Again, one insider selling doesn't really make a trend or really doesn't distinguish things, but when you have two different companies in the same sector, both insider selling, that's certainly interesting. I'm also seeing a lot of different selling in FSLY, so Fastly, and what's interesting about this is you have 4 different people. Now, the total share size isn't really that crazy, but when you look at the chart, I mean, why are they selling pretty much almost near the lows of the session? To me, this chart actually seems like it could go higher, but the big thing you don't want to lose is this breakaway bar. Notice how this is your breakout weekly candle on heavy volume. If you get a weekly close below that, then this stock is likely going to test the lows around 729. But it's interesting to see a lot of selling occurring in this last 2 weeks here from 4 different insiders. It's not like one insider selling for tax obligations or 2. You have 4 different people taking profits on really the same day. That's pretty freaky in my opinion. Definitely it seems like these 4 people have some insider information. You have the CFO, a major insider, the EVP, and the CEO. And then the real interesting one I want to bring to your attention is this, let me just find it here, this ACGL. That's the real intriguing one. So ACGL, let me just find it here on the chart. Just bear with me 1 second. I can't remember where it is on the list here, but I will find it. So ACGL is I believe it's a healthcare company. Let me just see if we need to scroll down a little bit more. Okay, now this is escaping me as of now. Of course, the moment I need to find it, it is escaping me, but I will find it. The ticker is ACGL. Maybe it's at the top. Yeah, it will be at the top here. And it's a pretty big sell. So let me just find it here. It was basically a $1.9 billion transaction off the top of my head. Aha, here it is. this is, sorry, AGL. That's the reason I wrote the ticker down. AGL, major shareholder, selling 94 million shares totaling 1.9 billion. The amount of shares that they have left over now is basically almost they've depleted all of their shares in this company. So when I see that, a major shareholder dumping all of their shares, and then you look at the chart, AGL, okay, so $1.9 billion sell, AGL. We pull up the AGL chart and look what it's actually triggering, this topping formation. Left shoulder head, right shoulder, another right shoulder. You've triggered the neckline. You have the 200 as support and you are short-term oversold. But the CEO sold, or sorry, the insider sold right on this candle, this May 16th candle. Obviously, there was some good earnings news. It popped it up and then it just pressed it right back down with a $1.9 billion sell. You don't typically see an insider dumping pretty much their full position, totaling 1.9 billion. And the more intriguing thing about this is when you actually look at the company as a whole, it's only a $9.58 billion company. Trades a great amount of volume for a trading stock, but it's very, very small. A 9.58 billion market cap, and you just saw a $1.9 billion sell. That is an extreme red flag in my opinion, and I'm waiting to see this stock for more weakness, a bearish pattern to potentially short. The triggering of this topping formation has a downside target of 1607. You will have support at this breakaway pivot over here, as well as this breakdown pivot over here. So 1935, you'll probably get a technical bounce, but this is looking like a high probable short, being the fact that a massive insider just dumped basically 1/10 of the company total market cap. That is a huge discrepancy. Now, on the buy side, there's a little bit of a smaller company here we can touch base on, OUST. I'm noticing interesting here. So OUST, 1, 2, 3 different people inside the company bought shares. 20,000 shares is basically an increase of, basically, what is that, 33% increase of the portfolio. 86,000 shares, total 562. It's not that big of a buy, but still pretty decent from the CEO. And then this person still, the CTO still holds 3.7 million, added 25,700. This stock, you have to be a little bit more careful because it is a small cap, but definitely interesting to see that this pattern is putting in bullish consolidation. You've broken out of this little bit of a range here, closing above this breakdown bar. You have a lot of resistance in this candle, being the fact that that was your heavy volume sell-off, but maybe there's good news coming in OUST, and it's an electronic semiconductor company. So perhaps they're going to be with a market cap of around 220 million. The average volume is 999,000. So definitely a tradable stock, but perhaps there's good news coming on the way. Maybe a buyout candidate, maybe a takeover candidate, and maybe we're seeing some insiders from, again, 3 different insiders. I would say one insider is really not that big, but when you have 3 different insiders putting their capital to work, that's certainly interesting from my point of view. A couple other stocks that I'm looking at is obviously Berkshire Hathaway has bought a tremendous amount of OXY. So if you pull up the OXY chart, they're obviously loading up on oil and gas. So Berkshire Hathaway is continuing to accumulate more and more OXY. On May 16th, 17th, 18th, they purchased millions and millions of shares. So that's certainly positive for the overall stock. But believe it or not, the stock has broken down from this main trend. It has put in a little bit of a double bottom, but if you take out this low, your next support is at 51, and I actually have a downside target of 44. That's providing oil breaks down. This is obviously super sensitive to oil, but it's always good to know that Warren Buffett has your back in the sense that they keep accumulating millions and millions of shares in this stock. So pay attention to OXY because they are going on a buying frenzy, and maybe at some point in time, they'll actually buy the whole company out. That's pretty much going to sum it up, but definitely the more intriguing one is going to be that AGL, considering that one insider dumped 1.9 billion, 1/10 of the company. Thanks for tuning in. Please give this video a big like down below. Tune in for our Trading Capital weekly sector reviews that we post continuously. Join our live stream service, and if you're interested in finding more about our swing trading service, definitely check out our website at tradingcapital.ca. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on the charts tomorrow.